So remember, when we talk about Always Encrypted, it is mainly designed to help you protect data from client side versus everything on the server side. Can you think of why this was a very important thing, that why not clients protect data versus the server side? Because the methods like transparent data encryption used to be good because it's encrypting the entire database, right? I mean, whole table or the whole database, but definitely a processor hit or a CPU hit, because SQL Server is busy keeping your data encrypted. You open something, it decrypts it. You close it, it has to encrypt it back. And there were lots and lots of keys which had to be configured in order to implement TDE. And definitely, like I mentioned, it is a processor overhead. So this
Hi,
was another, yes?
Deepika, there was a really quick question.
Sure.
What about legacy clients?
So when we talk about legacy clients, it depends what type of, like what exactly clients are you talking about? So it's pretty compatible. I don't know exactly from which particular version they are supporting, but which version are you on, which you're concerned about? Any specific version? Because I haven't seen any note, but I can definitely look into it, that from which version of SQL client.
So SQL 2000?
SQL 2000. Okay. That would be pretty old. I personally don't think, you would be able to hold on. Actually, the main thing is it's just a driver. So what actually Always Encrypted does is it puts a driver on the client side, which you pretty much have to use. So again, like I'm not sure if they have some drivers which will work for SQL 2000 as well. So I'm not like 100% sure. I'm definitely sure, like, the newer versions, because 2000 being that old, I would think 2008, again, I won't like to, quote on, because I'm not sure. I didn't see any like hardcore documentation on which clients should not be using it. So I would definitely look into it and we can get back to you. That which versions, like I would like to still go to Microsoft and look at the handwritten, like, basically written document, which it clearly says that if you are, because again, even if I say one version, they might have like, no, only R2 or only with service pack, you can use it. So that's the reason I would suggest maybe in the next break, or if we take a quick 2-minute break, I can check if I can see some specific editions which they want you to be using. Okay?
Okay. Deepika,
Sure.
can you answer another question?
Yes, yes.
So in SQL Server 2017, there's a security feature called row level security. Can you
Yes.
compare that with Always Encrypted?
Yeah, so row level encryption was always there. There was a column level encryption, but the whole scenario is that you still have to keep the keys attached to the database. So even if you're using a row level encryption, you are creating keys and you are keeping it attached to the instance, because keys don't work on themselves. There has to be an instance level key, then there has to be a database level key, then you would be encrypting the row. So it's like a big chain. And like I mentioned, if you have to move your table anywhere, like you have to take all the keys with you. So, and then even with row level encryption, there were some limitations, and it again depends on which would be a good fit. But their idea behind this is, I would just, while comparing, I would again give you the same answer, that row level, everything has to be handled on the instance level, whereas Always Encrypted is handled on the client side. That I would suggest would be the main difference between row level versus, and again, row means all, the entire row, which means the values from all the columns of that particular row. And here we are just concerned about a particular column. If you feel that you would like to protect the entire record of a client, which includes all the values in all the column, that is the time when you would still go with row level, because that's what you want to protect, the entire row of data. Versus here, we are talking about some values or some data which is for everyone, like a column based versus row based. Does it make sense? So it's mainly where you keep the keys and how portable your data becomes versus how you want to protect your data. Okay?
Thank you, Deepika.
Good. So again, like we are talking about what use cases would be for encrypted always encrypted use cases. So application is on the premises and even database is on-prem. This scenario is a good fit where you are mainly concerned about accidental or malicious use of the data by my data admins. Like I've been mentioning, this is a key factor of Always Encrypted, that you are now hiding the data from data admins. Because I hope you, if you are coming from the older versions of SQL, we have been trying to get onto the security as much as we could. Because way back, SQL was like, way back in 90s was the time when SQL Server was kind of, compared with Oracle, obviously, and said that, no, it's not secure. And that was the time when Microsoft wanted to make sure to add as much security possible. And that's what they're doing. And if you guys are coming from SQL, like today also, you know that if there was a table and you wanted to protect one of the column, you can even go to a column level permission and say, I don't want the person to have select permission on that column. So if that person does a select on the table, he sees all the columns except that column. But what about the SQL admin? SQL admin can always give himself select permission on the column because he's the owner, or he's basically the admin of the whole database. So that is where the things were falling apart, that we are able to hide data from the clients, but the SQL admin always are like super users, or they can do it. But with Always Encrypted, the main use case is that we would still be able to protect data from data admins. Yes, even if you're hosting my database, you still can't touch that column which I encrypted using Always Encrypted. And this would be another use case where I have my application on-prem, but the database is lying on the cloud, which means I'm so scared to send the data out. Don't worry, with Always Encrypted, they also cannot see your sensitive columns, which you have protected through Always Encrypted. That's the whole thing which they're trying to make clear, that that's where you would actually use Always Encrypted. So you can have application, database both on-prem, or you could have application on-prem and database on cloud. Again, I would like to compare when it used to be transparent data encryption, the psychology behind that database type. Today also people are using TDE if you really are concerned about encrypting the entire database. But the whole concept is that if you use TDE, everything is like all the keys are stored on the instance. Another important thing which you should understand is that when you are moving, like I've been talking about all these things that, especially with cloud and things like that, it becomes difficult. Now, here they're trying to teach you is that, mainly that how data can be like, I don't know if you guys have ever used TDE, but if you have to move the data to, or maybe you have to take out some, you have to take out a database from one instance and take it to the other instance, you need to attach it to the other instance, but because it was encrypted, it would not be complete till you move the matching keys and certificates with it. So that's the whole thing. And I would like to mention one very important thing here was that with TDE, the main reason was that we don't want application developers to put extra effort in designing a code, a piece of code, which would, like, instead of application designers putting up all the code and encrypting data, forget it, let me handle it, I'll encrypt the entire database. That was the psychology, that yes, application designers or developers would say, can we put some extra piece of code so that we can encrypt some data? So TD says, forget it, take it easy, you just write the app, we will encrypt the entire database for you. But now it is one step ahead where we say, you just host the database, you manage it, but let us control as a client side or an application side what exactly would we like to encrypt and what would be like, we don't want to expose this data. Even if you are an